池上彰と
増田ユリヤの YouTube 学園。
増田さんのイスラエルリポート第3弾ということですね。2月の上旬から中旬にかけてイスラエル各地を取材しました。さあ今日はどんな話なんでしょう。
はい、今日はですねテルアビブ大学で学生のリクルートといいますか紛争を研究するというプロジェクトの大学院があるそうなんですね、そこの生徒募集のディレクターをなさっているという、つまり職員の方で教授とかそう教える立場ではないんですが、そのカナダ出身のユダヤ人で今イスラエルに住んでいる方にお話を聞きました。で実はこの方 YouTuber なんですね。
なるほど。
はい。でその YouTube で何をしてきたかと言いますと、もう2012年からイスラエルの人、パレスチナの人それぞれにそれぞれの考えを語ってもらうという YouTube を運営してきてるんです。
それによってイスラエル側もあるいはパレスチナ側も向こう側の人は何を考えているんだろうかということを知るきっかけを作ってるわけですね。
はい。だから大人気なんですね。
はい、
で普通だったらそんなに直近のことを聞いたりということはしないそうなんです。もうちょっと長く見られるテーマでやっていくというようなことをやってきたそうなんですが、直近ではねトランプさんがガザを所有するっていうことについてどう思うかを両方に聞いたっていう、でそんな YouTube も上げてる方なんです。でこのね YouTube 学園でもどんどん動画使って宣伝してくださいなんてことも言ってくださったんですが、じゃあこの方がどんなふうに今の状況を見ているか、どんな思いで YouTube を続けているかということについて聞きました。YouTube 拝見しました。ありがとうございます。
Thank you so much.
はい。なぜああいう YouTube を始められたのか教えてもらえますか。
I noticed that people outside of Israel were talking about the conflict and they got a lot of details wrong. I noticed people outside the conflict would get a lot of information wrong about Israel, at least, and they only heard what the leaders had to say or what foreign media had to say. You never heard from the people. And I thought it would be interesting to hear from the people, and it would help clear up a lot of the misinformation that goes around, at least about Israel at first. And then I thought I would do something similar with Palestinians who I didn't know.
この紛争が始まる前はどんなふうにパレスチナの人たちのことを思ってましたか。
I've been dealing with Palestinian people a lot over the last 30 years, but mostly since I started the channel in 2012. So I had a mix of, humanizing them. So I obviously human beings, and I see them as deserving of all the same rights I have, self-determination, right, same type of rights I would have. But also, they are very, how would I put this, very stubborn. Very, they think that they're the only ones who are right in this, and they will not show any, or very few of them will show any moderation towards Israel or Israelis. They think Israel shouldn't exist and all the Jews need to leave. And that is problematic for me because I'm a Jew and they don't actually know our history. And in any conflict, doesn't actually matter what the conflict is or how just one side is, you still have to deal with reality and understand that there are two groups here who want something very similar. They want to control the land, they want self-determination, and how do we find solutions for that? So I find that Palestinians are very, very unwilling to look for other ideas when it comes to finding solutions.
自分たちに対してのパレスチナの方たちの違う考え方をその辛い部分をどうやってご自身の中で納得というか解決をしていった感じですか？
So I would say I have this feeling both as a Jew, but also as a Canadian, I have to say. Because even if I wasn't a Jew and I was just listening to Palestinians as a Canadian who grew up in Canada, I would think they're very uncompromising and they've dehumanized Israelis to a lot. Israelis have also dehumanized Palestinians. We can get into that after. But how do I deal with this? I actually deal with it exactly what I said. I think as a Canadian, growing up Canadian, thinking everyone should be treated equally, everyone should have the same rights, there should be fairness, compromise in life in general. what would I want to hear from them? What I want them to say that would show me that there is hope for peace in this region between Israelis and Palestinians, and not just one side completely destroying the other side. Yes, I see how they're right in some ways, and I would see how they are also believing things that aren't necessarily true. Both sides, by the way, a little to some extent. And it was hard. And sometimes I would say, I just don't want to deal with Israelis this week. So I would go to film Palestinians, or the opposite. I don't want to deal with Palestinians. I need a break. And sometimes, other times I would come back and I would feel, because one or two people from the Palestinian side more so, gave me some hope, because they were more able to compromise, or they saw the humanity of Jews or Israelis. I could take that and at least feel some sense that there is a small amount of hope. Very small, but small amount of hope. I think that's how I cope with it, mostly.
When did you go to West Bank for the first time after October 7th?
That would seem October, probably January. I didn't film Israelis or Palestinians for the first 2 months on purpose, because I thought it's going to be too raw, it's going to be too emotional. And actually, they surprised me, both Israelis and Palestinians. They weren't as emotional as I thought they would be.
私が今日見たのはトランプさんがガザを、立て直すというような話のインタビューだったんですけれども、あのインタビューはどうでしたか？面白かったとか、いろんな意見聞けたとか、どうでしょうか？
It was interesting, but it wasn't surprising. I knew they would say no. So for two reasons. So they said no to Trump's plan to move all Gazans out of Gaza, or most Gazans out of Gaza. At the time that I asked it, it wasn't very clear if they could go back to Gaza or not, because there were contradictory information coming from the Trump administration. It doesn't matter. I knew they would all say no. That was obvious, because also Palestinians, to the camera, have to show that they are very much part of this land. They will not move. They are connected to this place, and saying I would leave even for a year or two or whatever seems traitorous. It's like you're a traitor to your people. So I knew nobody was going to admit to it on camera. I don't think, and also this is in the West Bank, not Gaza. I don't think any of them were lying to me, actually. I think that they really believe that they must stay on their land. It's just a part of Palestinian society.
But however, off the camera, did they say anything interesting?
No, nobody said anything different off camera. Mm-hmm. The only thing, by the way, in any case I ever get off camera is I get maybe a softening of their views. So people will say, I will never agree to live with the Jews, for example. They say that a lot. And then either sometimes on camera and sometimes off camera, they'll say, well, maybe. If they really prove to me, and under my conditions, not the Jews' conditions, my conditions, that we can live together, then maybe. Which is already, from a conflict resolution perspective, is already something. That's already a little bit. So Israelis generally think all the land, West Bank and Israel, not Gaza, nobody wants Gaza, West Bank and Israel should be under, West Bank and Israel proper should be under Israel. And I say, well, what happens to the Arabs? And they say, no, they'll be equal. They'll be fine. That's okay. I go, can they get a passport? And not everyone says yes, but most people say yes. And then my test question is, could they be the prime minister, Palestinian? Could they be prime minister? Because in a real democracy, you have to have that. And that's where most people go, ooh, I don't think so. No. Because that means that Palestinian has control over the Jews. And that scares them. So that's where I think it would break down. Because they're thinking about it in their simplistic way. When it comes down to real democracy, real equality, what does that mean? By the way, Palestinians exactly the same. Palestinians believe this is all Palestine. We're right now in Palestine. And when I say to them, okay, so Jews in Israel will move to Hebron and move to the old city of Jerusalem and buy up, because in democracy you can do that. They always say, no, they can't do that. No, we're not allowing the Jews to do that. So everyone has their own version of how they think things should be, and they don't understand what a democracy is in this sense.
何かご自身の中でイスラエルの方とパレスチナの方が共存が可能だなっていうか、そんなふうに思えた瞬間っていうのはあるんでしょうか。それとも今回の問題が起きてやはりこの共存は難しいと思ってらっしゃいますか。そのあたりご自身の考えは今はどうでしょうか。
I think between Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs, yes, there's still coexistence. There's definitely issues we need to solve within Israel, but my feeling, I was actually very impressed with how Arab Israelis reacted or didn't react to October 7th. They want coexistence, but again, let me go back to this. Each side, Israelis and Palestinians, see it under their own terms. So for Israelis, it's everything belongs to Israel, and Israelis decide. And the Palestinians should just be happy with what they get. They could be equal, that's fine, because Israelis understand that. But it's each side frames it as no, it's under my terms of how things are going to work. So that is difficult when you have two sides who have very different ways of dealing with differences in society. That's very difficult. So in a sense, yes, most Israelis and most Palestinians think there should all be one state, but my state. So if I'm Israeli, it means it's all Israel. If I'm Palestinian, it's all Palestine. Yes, that's true. Not one state as in a binational state or a state for all. Almost nobody thinks that should happen here. Outside, that's what they think. Yes, that's true.
やっぱり住み分けみたいなものが必要だというふうに思いますか。
So for example, if you here, there's not enough people here, it's a rainy day, at the university, Tel Aviv University, you will find tables of Arabs together and tables of Jews together. You never see a table of Arabs and Jews sitting together, ever. Now, each of them will claim they have friends in the other group. They will claim them. And I'm like, why is nobody sitting together? Now, part of it is cultural and language, it's true. They speak different languages, they have different cultures, but also each group feels like they can't relate to each other very well. So yeah, in terms of coexistence, that's at the moment the best you can get.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
この YouTube 学園で YouTuber を紹介するっていうのは珍しいケースですけれど、ご本人がねどうぞ使ってくださいとおっしゃってるのでということなんですけど、やっぱりカナダ出身ということはやっぱりイスラエルあるいはパレスチナについてある程度客観的に見ることができる、そういう立場なんですね。
はい。でご自身もねもちろんユダヤ人だから、どうしてもユダヤ人に心を寄せる部分はあるということは認めてらっしゃるんですが、でもそれでもカナダ出身ということで、人権であるとかね、やっぱりそういうことに非常に教育的なものを受けてるわけなんですね。だから何かやっぱりその両者について客観的に冷静に見られないかということで始められたわけなんです。でおっしゃってたのは両方とも自分に都合のいいように解釈をしていて、それが間違ってる部分があるということが分かったと。
はい、なるほどね。それぞれの言い分でもね敵対していると相手はとにかく悪だ悪いんだってばっかりになりますよね。相手にもそれなりの言い分があるんだってことをお互いが知るってこと大事なことですね。
でね意外にみんな本音で語ってくれるんですって、いろんなことを。
はい、
でそういうシーンに出会うことがやっぱり面白くて、でそれにまた反応があって、じゃあ次はこういうテーマで聞いてみようかということを繰り返してるそうなんですね。
そこから何かねこの両者の対話のきっかけが生まれるといいですよね。
そうですね。ですから両者の考えがどういうものかということを知る、そういうことが大事なんだなということを強く感じました。
はい、
YouTube 学園から新しい本が生まれました。
歴史で読み解く世界情勢の基本中東編。今イスラエルがなぜガザを攻撃しているのか、なぜレバノンのヒズボラとの戦争になっているのか、そういったいろんなややこしい話が、歴史から読み解くことができるんです。
はい、ぜひお読みください。